Thanks for coming back. Just before we lost you, we were talking about political will and the need for that to be urgent and decisive in dealing with this problem once and for all, because you were suggesting we're running out of time.
Definitely, Peter. And as I was mentioning, our government continues to use the low-income individuals that are dependent on the coal economy as an excuse for delaying action, when in reality they are trying to wring out as much of a fiscal benefit from the carbon majors as possible as it stands. So we're hoping that as we approach COP26, that our government will set aside their political agendas and prioritize climate action on their agenda. Something that's quite clear to us is that our government is quite comfortable with the narrative being pushed by international media houses that Africa is a passive player in this climate crisis, when we do in fact have a historical responsibility as far as emissions go, as a result of major carbon majors such as Cecil and Eskom. And it's important that we put forward really ambitious targets to allow for emissions reductions to really take place.
The reality, though, is that the developing nations do need assistance, and the developed nations, who are the biggest polluters, and yet we are the biggest sufferers, need to come to the party as well, don't they, in terms of financing and helping continents like Africa to move from fossil fuels into green fuels.
Definitely, Peter, what we want to see is some good faith from these international actors such as the US as well as the EU that have the financial capacity to assist the global south, but as well as a sharing of information and technology that can allow for us to adapt a lot better. Unfortunately, South African government has not really expressed what we'll do in our capacity as a country financially, what amount of our own funds will we put to adaptation and mitigation. And that is a crucial thing that we need to look at, that South Africa is actually putting forward its best foot as far as capacity is concerned.
So what do we need to do in Glasgow at this climate change gathering?
What we want to see is more ambitious targets from our government with regards to our nationally determined contributions. So the Department of Forest, Fisheries and Environment did open the NDC to public consultation early April this year. And a number of organizations have submitted comments on how they feel the NDCs should look. Greenpeace Africa was one of these organizations, and we submitted analysis that really supported a science-based approach to the NDCs. And we're hopeful that Minister Barbara Creecy will allow for, as October approaches, a final NDC to be submitted that is reflective of this and is reflective of the Paris Agreement as well as what is required by science.
All right, so what can we do in South Africa, in Africa? Because we are hamstrung in the short term for sure. We need energy to drive our economies, and sadly for us, what's available abundantly is fossil fuels. The transition will take time. So what do we do in the interim? Do we have time?
Well, we're fortunate enough that we also have an abundance of sunlight, wind, and a number of other resources that can allow for renewable energy uptake to take place. We're really gifted in that sense as a nation, as opposed to other countries that don't have that luxury. And we really need to see an exploitation of these resources as we go forward. So the 2019 Integrated Resource Plan is actually one of the most crucial elements that has been put forward by the DFFE as a part of its emissions reduction plan. The IRP has a potential of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 84 metric tons of carbon dioxide a year. And that is quite an enormous amount and could definitely have massive implications on our emissions trajectory. So what we want to see is our government prioritizing renewable energy sources and moving away from energy procurement projects that are incompatible with this 1.5 degrees mitigation target. We don't want to see projects that are driven by gas, coal or oil, as we've seen with them trying to procure the power ship deal, as well as the the gas amendment bill that we're seeing being discussed right now, as well as the upstream petroleum bill. We definitely want to see more of a focus on projects that are aligned with what we need to do going forward to achieve that 1.5 degrees Celsius target.
Thandile Chinyavanhu, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and let's hope that these messages are not falling on deaf ears, but people do treat it as urgent as the matter really is. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's Thandile Chinyavanhu, who's with Greenpeace, warning us about climate change. The report from the UN on Monday is unequivocal in that human interference, human activity has caused global warming, and we're seeing the fruits of that in droughts, in floods, and changes in weather patterns. And we've got little time left to sort it out.